Hi, my name is Darlene, and I'm going to be answering questions on Erik Erikson's psychosocial stages of development. And today's date is April 11th, but I also did some on the 9th and on the 10th. So thank you.
Okay. Well, Erik Erikson emphasized the role of cultural and societal conflicts in human beings that occurred during the important developmental periods during the lifespan of an individual. These conflicts, or crises as he called them, could have a positive or a negative effect on the psychological development of that particular individual. An example I'm going to give is from an animated cartoon, so I hope just bear with me. But from the Jungle Book, Mowgli was forgotten by the people on the boat. So what ended up happening was that Bagheera found him, which was the panther, and took him to a pack of wolves or a den of wolves, because they knew that the mother would take care of the baby, the infant. Mowgli was scared because he was left alone, and then found himself to be in a family environment where he gained trust. So that's a little bit of a part of what Erikson is talking about. Because there was a child who had no trust because he was left alone, and then became part of something and built that trust with them. So to continue on, though, uh, Erik Erikson, he developed 8 stages of psychosocial development, infancy all the way to adulthood. Um, he called it psychosocial for a reason. Psychosocial comes from the psycho part of it is the psychological needs of the individual, including the social, which is the conflicting needs of society, or the societal needs. Um, the stages that he did come up with were 8 of them. They each have a different age range within the lifespan. Each of these stages has a psychosocial crises, and within that, when the completion is successful of that stage, then the individual gains their basic virtue, and that virtue is basically just a successful completion of that stage, which then is important because it also is helping provide social interactions on a positive level instead of on a negative level. That I see myself at right now is, well, I'm 49 years old, so that will put me at stage 7, which is generativity versus stagnation. And basically, generativity kind of is referring to kind of making your mark on the world, whereas stagnation means having no goals or seeing a future. So, for instance, well, let me continue. Um, During this stage, there just seems to be a need to like just make that mark, to nurture, to create, and usually that's like grandkids or kids, and you're providing, and you're growing values and traditions, and that's your generativity. But as for me, my generativity is my education and being a librarian, and how I am using that to encourage students to become better citizens. So I'm just trying to get education out there and to let the students know that there is a lot more out there than, just an hourly work wage working at McDonald's. But um, let me continue on another way. Um, for instance, stagnation. Um, I'm a widow, and after my husband passed, I pretty much was just down in the dumps, of course. I was lost. I grieved. I did not know what to do for like 2 years. I was out of a job. I had no goals, I had nothing to live for, it felt like. I didn't feel like I was contributing to society. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. Um, but I went to school, and that helped me because that brought goals and aspirations to me. And so that got me out of that stagnation and got me into generativity, I feel. And I feel that's a great reference because I'm going to refer it back to Disney now, because in the movie Up, we see that, there's a couple and the wife passes and the husband just doesn't want to continue on, but then he finds the little boy and he finds a reason to move on. And that is, he was in a stagnant place, and that ended up giving him his purpose in life, which was to make his mark in the world, which was to, uh, you know, to nurture somebody. And here he is nurturing this child. So that's my example of where I am in the stage of development. Being at this stage of development, I feel influences my behavior in my classroom because I feel that I am more attuned to the students and focusing on them individually and what they are needing from me, because I feel like I felt that when I was grieving, and I was at that point where I needed somebody, and I want to be there for my students. So that's what I'm bringing. I'm being more focused, more. I'm just really looking out for them. So I guess I'm just more in tune to what they are wanting from me. So I feel that, yeah, this stage in development is a positive influence for my classroom. Let's see. I work in a high school, so I have 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. So they range from 14 to 18 years old. So that puts them, I believe, stage 5, and they are considered identity versus role confusion. During this time, they're searching for who they want to be. They're searching for their own personal identity. Um, they students or during this time they're exploring their own personal values, their beliefs, and what they want to do, their goals. Um, but this is a crucial time during the adolescence because during this time they aren't a little kid anymore, but they're not quite an adult. So there's that little bit of independence that's coming through because they used to focus a lot on being taken care of, but now that they're growing up, they're becoming a little bit independent. So they're continuing on that. Um, they're struggling to find their sense of self. They they what they want to do, what they want to be. Um, let's see. When another thing that they focus on is their body image. Uh, that can maybe be uncomfortable for some because a lot of them are not used to adapting and growing into their changes, their body changes, and that needs to be healthy. And so we want to be able to provide that without them being uncomfortable. So that's what this stage kind of is. They're just basically learning about themselves and trying to figure out who they are. One thing is that they really want to be accepted. But one thing for sure, Successful completion of this stage leads to their virtue of fidelity, and that's being able to commit to yourself by accepting others, even when they have differences.
This is a good question. Um, I believe having the students at this stage, which is identity and role confusion, may influence their behaviors in school. Um, because a lot of kids at this age just want to be accepted by their peers. This is a time when they are learning their role and what it takes for them to have a goal, I guess. Um, let's see. I feel the younger ages, are more likely to agree with the peers as opposed to the older students. Because at this time, the older students have been at this stage of development for a while now, and they may have they already may be successfully completing this stage and getting ready for their new stage in life. But so I feel that the younger kids of this stage are going to be more, let's see, just more listening to their peers and not themselves because they just want to be accepted. But when they start getting older, they're going to start realizing who it is that they are. Do they want to be like their friends? Do they want to be something different? Um, because like this is when they're learning about themselves. So yeah, I do believe that it does influence how they are in the school. I'm not quite sure what this question means. Um, what might be some disconnect between the students and me, keeping the differences in the two stages? Because, well, I know we're in two totally different stages, but my stage for sure is that I'm going to want to be helping and nurturing these students, whether they're at the stage where they want to be helped, that they're ready to move on to their role, their identity in society, or even if they're not quite there yet and they're just listening to their peers and just, I'm going to be there for them. Even if they're not going to ask me questions, I go to them because that's part of my stage in life, is because, you know, I want to make a difference. I want to make my mark, and making my mark is by helping them, whether um, helping them, but to help them in the way that helps that they can learn from it. So, because of this stage of development for them, because it's very sensitive and they're trying to find themselves, I know that this stage is kind of divided a little bit, maybe the beginning and the end, because, like what I stated in the last question, is when you're first coming into this stage, I believe that a lot of them are just going to follow their peers because of the acceptance. But then they want to grow out of that and become their own person. And that's a phase, and that's time, and that's the stage. So that's why I believe that me personally, I'll be there for both stages of them. Well, I'm going to be there for that stage, but I'm going to be there in the different aspects of that part of it for them. So I hope that answers the question. And yeah, thank you. Well, I wanted to thank you for the interview. This has been very enlightening. I am still very new to this and I am still learning a lot, but I am looking forward to being a teacher and being able to provide for my students. And that's it. So thank you again for this opportunity. Have a great day. Bye.